All right, we are live, and we are missing Makisha. She's having some technical difficulties, so I'm going to try to be acting like the moderator, which I'm not very good at, but I'll try. So the topic for today is dating and relationships, and we, as atheists, we want to talk about different aspects of what atheists have to deal with regards to this. Are they okay with being in a relationship or marrying atheists, or are they specifically being exclusive to other atheists? Do they have experience with this? What are their plans, or is this irrelevant when it comes to relationships? Is it challenging for atheists to find like-minded people where they live, especially if it's not safe for them to come out as atheists? Basically, topics. How many of you are, just raise your hand, how many of you are in a relationship with atheists right now? Just one. All right. How many of you are in a relationship with an atheist? Okay. How many of you are single right now? Oh, and Ray is, we can't see, we had video for Ray, so we don't have any more. So how about we get Gregory? You're the only person in a relationship with the theist right now. How about you unmute yourself? I'll unmute you myself, and you could tell us what your thoughts about this. So, go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, there was some overlapping audio there. I don't know if it's my connection. Okay, so.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so being in a relationship with a theist, well, I should probably give you a little bit of background, at least on how it began. So basically, I grew up as a Roman Catholic, indoctrinated into my religion, like most people, and then met my wife through a family member. We're all Catholic, so I married her as a Catholic, and it wasn't until maybe a year or so after our daughter was born is when I started to question things about our religion, and it kind of just went from there. She kind of found out on her own. I never really revealed my atheism or my questioning of our beliefs. And she just one day, she up and asks, do you not believe in God anymore? What's going on? And I said, well, I don't. I was blunt about it. And I gave her my reasoning, and she, was shocked, but she was accepting of it. And at the end of it, she said, well, what matters is that we love each other for who we are and not what we believe in. So
that's pretty good. I was actually the same when I married my wife. She was a Christian, and I was ready actually to do the whole be supportive of her faith and go to church with her and everything. And I was actually trying to show off how accepting I am, but I didn't get the chance to do that because she ended up turning into an atheist herself, and now she's very, very, she's very anti-religion now, very anti-theist, sometimes a little bit more than me. So I didn't get to go through that whole, oh, I'm so accepting of you being a Christian kind of deal. But I was trying to go through that a little bit, but she didn't let me. Anyway, so for those one of you that are not in a relationship right now, do you consider atheism to be something that you consider as a must, or is that not an issue for you? Oh wait, so Todd is speaking. I'm going to unmute you first so he can hear you. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay. It's I kind of have mixed feelings about it, honestly. I think it's probably one of those things where it's a preference simply because it would make things easier, fewer rough spots to negotiate, really. But I do have some people that I'm close to that it's just really not. It's not an issue whenever we interact. It's a topic of discussion, but it doesn't really get in the way of us just kind of enjoying, hanging out and enjoying each other's company. But I do say it's a preference because I feel like eventually down the road, as you move toward a serious relationship and as you move toward marriage and that kind of thing, your belief structure, your belief system gets to be a bigger deal, and you search for more agreement on those deeper levels, and it makes it easier to negotiate those things and fewer obstacles to real emotional intimacy if you don't have to kind of dodge those questions and walk on eggshells around topics that may be sensitive to other people.
Yeah, I cannot understand, but I don't know why this topic is a big of it, more of an issue compared to other. Like, why do atheists and religious people look at this first? And like, we don't, when we're looking for our significant other, when we're looking at what they believe in, we don't say like, okay, what are your views on climate change? What about capital punishment? What about animal rights? Like, we don't go through these things with them, but God and religion is something that a lot of people take seriously. So what is it about this topic that this opinion really matters when it comes to us screening for finding relationships compared to other opinions about other topics?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, and to your point, I think really religion is one of those things where those types of worldviews, it's all about meaning in life. It's all about how they construct meaning, what they find personally meaningful, and how they define themselves. If other people may not attach that much meaning and significance to religious questions, but they may to climate change, dietary things, being vegan, that sort of thing. And I think it's one of those things where religion is just more often, with a greater number of people, sort of one of the meaning defining issues, and that's what you butt up against. But and you make an excellent point, and I think that could really extend into any number of other issues depending on who you're talking to.
Sirisha, do you have any opinions in this?
Yeah, hi. Well, personally, I have seen quite a few relationships that have worked pretty well between atheists and theists. Though I haven't been in a relationship like that as of now, so I do not have a personal example to quote. It mainly, I would like to say that it mainly is a collective of many different opinions and viewpoints. And like Todd said a while earlier, it something like dietary preferences also are a very important thing, as much as religion is important for certain people. Definitely, yes. So what strikes the chord with a few people when it comes to dating and relationships? What are the sensitive points? What are the points that they are likely to sit together and discuss? It totally depends upon the temperaments of two people who join in an interaction like this, or who decide to become a couple. Because at a later date, you do not want any kinds of arguments over belief systems. That's the last thing anyone would want. So in my personal opinion, the preference would definitely go to an atheist, because when I think of, say, dating someone, because atheism is not just about defying God or refuting God. Refuting God is the word. It also has a lot of other things that go hand in hand together, about caring for your environment, concerns for the things that matter to you. So it's a more comprehensive belief system that we are talking about. And unless belief systems gel together, two individuals cannot really negotiate on how to share the space together and how to define their lives together. That is my personal opinion.
That makes sense. And I also want to point out that just there is no right answer to these questions. Like sometimes we ask this on our page, and it seems like a lot of people are suggesting that some people are like they're okay with dating or marrying non-atheists, and they were suggesting that whoever is not okay with this is intolerant. And then some other people on the other side were saying that they only want to be in a relationship with atheists, and whoever that doesn't agree with them is just deluding themselves that this could work. But the thing is, I think everybody has to find their own answer. Like just because I'm okay.
Yeah, I think they're coming from their personal point of view, Armin, over there. They might have quoted some examples from their own experiences in life. I was also going through the comment thread there, and there were instances where people were saying that people are deluding themselves. They had some sort of an experience being in a relationship with a theist where they had to talk on an everyday term about their belief system and justify themselves on why they do not believe in God or why they do not follow certain practices or rituals or going to church for that instance. So many people were coming from their personal points of view over there.
Yes, but again, because we see so many people having different experiences, that shows that there's no right answer, right? If somebody if somebody is okay with being with somebody that disagrees with them on this topic, then it's okay with them, and that doesn't mean everybody has to be okay with them. That doesn't mean that if somebody wants to find somebody that is an atheist, that they're wrong, right? That's just their personal preference. When it comes to personal preferences, there is no absolute answer. Maybe for me, for example, if somebody believed in God, that was not a deal breaker for me. But maybe if they were okay with torture, as maybe, I don't know, maybe that would be a deal breaker for me, right? So it just depends on what you see, what views you see as what sort of behavior, what sort of views and ideas you feel is important. Some people say that it's not just the idea that they have a problem with. They think like if somebody is a theist, for them that shows the lack of intelligence, and they just want to be with somebody smart.
On that lack of intelligence point, I would like to just mention something interesting. A lot of people I have met, let me just quote, for instance, my interactions in the laboratories that I have worked in. Very interestingly, scientists who are supposed to be the torchbearers of science and who have been analytically thinking about different problems and their solutions, they also tend to have their personal religious belief system, and that sometimes doesn't interact with their thinking process. It might just be a little interesting, if people are open to date or be in a relationship or marry someone who has a differing point of view. You might have interesting discussions on an everyday basis. You can have interesting conversations, provided you're, say, intellectually compatible or thinking on similar planes and are ready to disagree on certain points, maybe. I don't know what others think.
Yeah, I want to see what I'm going to pronounce your name wrong. Varki, what do you think? Is that how? Also, can you tell me how you pronounce your name correctly, so next time I have to say it right.
My name is pronounced Varki, which could be quite hard for you guys over there, but I'm fine with Varki, but whatever. On this topic, I think that it's all subjective. I think it's all subjective. I think the only thing that matters when it comes to a relationship is whether you can tolerate her and whether she can tolerate you. And if she's fine with you being an atheist, and if you're fine with your partner being religious, then I don't see the problem. But the thing, I can give an example. My dad is an atheist, and I think he's been an atheist since college or something. And when when he married my mom, she was a Christian, but then I don't know what happened. She became an atheist eventually, like what happened with you, Armin. And they've been living happily for a long time. But the thing is, I think the main point here is tolerance. And coming from India, there's this problem with religions that religion seems to have a say on who you get to marry and who you don't. And usually, when what happens in India is that a Hindu marries a Hindu and a Muslim marries a Muslim. And if it happens any different, usually society, family, friends, everyone wants a say in who you get to choose to be a partner. And a lot of time they get attacked personally, they get isolated if they marry someone who is an atheist or who does not share the same faith as you do. So that is definitely an issue on this part of the globe.
Well, what do you guys think about the fact that most atheists that are open, at least open about their atheism, seems to be like there seems to be more male than female. At least that's what our statistics on our page shows. I don't know if that's because more atheists are male, or is it that they're more open about their atheism. But if men are actually being wanting to be very picky and only go for women that are, and well, obviously there's also gay men and lesbians, but for straight men that are only looking for female atheists, that's going to be a huge challenge, because there seems to be there seem to be outnumbering them by a huge margin. At least that's what the demographics shows on our page.
Well, Armin, there you can always draw a comparison between atheism and science that way, because in classrooms, again, you see a gender skewed ratio between men and women. So, I mean, drawing a parallel over there, I mean, if you're a science student, you need not necessarily want to marry only another science student or another person who was in science. So you can have a differing background when you want to get together. Same goes for atheism, I would like to say. But then again, Varki mentioned a very interesting point, because the country like India, where arranged marriages are a norm, even to this date, yeah, parents have a great say in who your partner is going to be and what credentials or what characteristics are you looking for in the partner, more than the persons involved. It becomes a problem over there, because if you declare yourself openly as an atheist, in some families it is as bad as declaring yourself as being gay or a lesbian, and they look at you as an outcast, as someone who they can no longer deal with. So it though I have to mention over here that it only is a problem in a few families, and most educated people around here, they generally are open, and they have become slightly more tolerant. The equations are changing even in India. You see more intercaste marriages happening, more interreligious marriages also happening. But yes, that is restricted only to a certain section of the society, unfortunately, even today. But yes, coming back to the same point where I was drawing a parallel between science and atheism, it doesn't need to be demographically that you need to really choose an atheist, a man wanting to date only a woman who is an atheist. But yes, I mean, it totally depends upon the personal preferences of the person at the end of the day.
That makes a lot of sense. But also, if just based on my experience, and um, this is not at all representing. I'm not trying to say this is going to work every time. If you do end up dating or marrying an atheist, don't try to actively convert them. I think that's going to cause a lot of conflict. I mean, but be open about discussing it if they're curious about it, right? So don't shy away from it. Like don't try to not talk about it at all. You could mention your opinions about different things from time to time. And this is I'm not an expert. Don't take my. This is just what worked for me. I was open about it. She was much more curious about it than I assumed she would be. So she kept on wanting to know why I believe the way I did, and eventually she changed her mind. So I think just being open about it, and actually, I think and I want to also say something to the people that consider people that are not atheists to be not intelligent, and that's totally not true. We know a lot of very, very, very intelligent people that believe in God. You could be totally wrong about something and still be very intelligent about so many different other subjects. But even if that was the case, even if if people that were not atheists were not intelligent, to me personally, that still wouldn't matter, because to me, kindness is a much more important virtue than intelligence. So that's what I care about the most, more than intelligence. But even if intelligence is a deal breaker for you, I think you could find a lot of very intelligent people that are not necessarily atheists. Anyways, who else has an opinion about this? Who wants to speak? All right. So Gregory, do you wanna? I'm gonna let Gregory speak now.
Okay, thank you, Armin. So at least, referring back to the point where you said kindness is more, more important than anything else, when it comes to theism versus atheism, and, intelligence, how intelligent a human being is, I would agree that kindness is more important. And then also going back to what you were saying earlier with, being in a relationship as an atheist with a theist, and not trying to actively convert them. I think that is probably the best thing. I mean, surely, there are atheists who think they need to wear their atheism on their sleeve, every day and proclaim it to the world. This is the way the world needs to be for us to better ourselves as a human race, and that's a little bit too extreme. That kind of goes in line with some, even religious fundamentalists that I would think. So I think it's just better to maybe not be so quiet about it, but not not vocal either. Maybe just if they see like a book you're reading, for example, take any well-known atheist book, The God Delusion, for example. They see you reading it and they say, well, why are you reading that? And then you kind of give them a little bit of info, you summarize it, and then they become curious and they start maybe to question their own belief system, and so that's not actively converting them, correct? That's just kind of presenting them with what your cognitive machinations are, your way of thinking. So and then somebody mentioned earlier, I think it was Sarisha, about environmentalism and how that kind of falls into play with religiosity. So I think there are some points in, atheism and theism versus theism, or atheist and theist relationships where topics like that are a little bit sensitive. Um, but um, it's all a matter of how you come across. It's all a matter of how you discuss the issue with the person you're discussing it with. As long as you're not being confrontational, or as long as you're not yelling, you kind of retain your composure, then I think the discussions can be, I guess the word is successful. I don't know if that's the right word, but a fruitful conversation. I think good things can come from conversations like that. And as far as being an atheist and then only wanting to date an atheist, I don't think that's exactly fair. I mean, everybody is entitled to to their own lives, to do what they want to do with their lives, but I mean that's a little bit closed-minded when you're an atheist and then you're only wanting to date atheists as well. I mean, you could come across great theists, people who are just great human beings. They just happen to believe something different than you, and I think that's totally fine.
I think you make some good points there, Gregory. And I agree wholeheartedly with you. I think it's one of those things where you have to be personally flexible, and I think a lot of people that do draw that hard line and say I'm only going to do this, they're in some ways making the same error that we see theists make, in that this is the box that I'm going to draw, and I'm only going to operate within this box, and everything outside of that is invalid. And with the people on the threads, if you do this, you're intolerant. If you do this, then you're whatever else. And they may be reacting to some of their past emotional experiences, and the emotional aspect of these discussions. It can be considered separately, but as we all know, those types of discussions can get very emotionally heated very quickly, and like many of you have said, it depends on the person, and I think you make an excellent point when you say that it depends on how you conduct the conversation. If you if you establish it as this is going to be a respectful, rational discourse, and this is just one opinion on one subject, and we happen to have different opinions on that. We have different opinions on a ton of other subjects. We can discuss those as well, and I think trying to bring the emotional intensity of this subject down to the level of some of the others that we can discuss more easily in a more calm and mutually respectful manner. I think setting the tone for that, and being non-confrontational, but still, if challenged on a point, by all means defend your point, defend it vigorously. But because it's okay if we disagree, it's okay if we're different. But it's different in being being vocal and being contentious. I think that's the thing, and I think it comes down to just showing that understanding the other person and wanting to communicate with them rather than just win an argument and win the day. And I think if you're just seeking to communicate with people and understand where they're coming from and just mutual understanding, I think the conversations like that tend to be, to use your word, and I think it's a very good word, those conversations tend to be the most fruitful for everybody involved.
I'm gonna say something and then let Barky, yes, him speak next. But I just want to disagree with you two a little bit. Even though I myself was okay with marrying a theist, I don't see anything wrong with somebody that wants to only be exclusive to atheists. I don't think that's intolerant. I think that's just personal preference. I'm personally open to it. Just the same. If a Muslim girl only wants to marry a Muslim man, we don't see that as being some intolerance. That's just her personal preference. If a Christian man was to only marry a Christian woman, that's his personal preference. We don't consider that to be intolerant. So I think any atheist should be okay with not just with regards to atheism. If, for example, somebody says, if somebody is not a vegan, I'm not gonna date that person. I just only want to be exclusive to vegans. I mean, that's not intolerance either. That's personal preference. So I think while it seems a lot of us here are okay with it, I don't think we should consider people that are not okay with dating theists to be intolerant. That's just what I think. But Verki, if you want to speak.
What I think on this is that unlike atheism or the faith in a deity, I think how it differs from other things when it comes to human relationships is that your opinion on maybe capital punishment or stuff like that doesn't really occupy your daily life or occupy your life in the way that God occupies the life of a theist, usually. I'm not generalizing here, but in most cases, we can agree that theists take these things very seriously. It's a big part of their life, and usually when we disagree with them, it gives them cognitive dissonance, and they tend to be very pissed off. So we can agree that unlike most things that we can differ on, whether I do not agree with her opinion on whether capital punishment is wrong or not. That's different. You don't get up in the morning and talk about capital punishment, but they get up in the morning and pray at the direction of the Mecca. But so there's always that when it comes into relationship. So what I wanted to say is that so because a belief in a God occupies the life of a person who believes in it so greatly, if you enter in a relationship with them, or if they enter in a relationship, well, yeah, it's a mutual thing. So if that happens, you have to be tolerant. Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with the others, and it depends on what kind of a person you are. You have to be tolerant. You have to be flexible. You should not drag them to church, and you should not make them read the God Delusion. You should be tolerant on what they believe in, and engage and try to engage in rational conversation. Say, as long as it doesn't affect you, as long as you don't get in fierce debates. That's all.
Yeah. And that's a very good point. And actually, when it comes to how serious this could get, another thing a lot of people consider is that many people are eventually planning to have children. So and how they bring up their children is a very important topic to them. And if one of the parents is an atheist and the other one is a theist, then the issue of, well, what are we going to teach our children? How are we going to raise them? Are we going to baptize them? Are we not going to baptize them? Is there circumcision comes into, like, what are we going to tell them about God? Are we going to wait until they reach the age of reason? Or no, maybe the religious parents wants to teach them how to pray from the very early age. That could be a huge source of conflict. Sirisha, what do you think about that?
Yeah, hi. So I was almost about to say the same thing, saying we were going to overlap with one of our previous Hangouts where we were talking about parenting and kids, because raising kids essentially becomes a very big issue in most families. For instance, my own family, if I have to talk about, so I have one parent who is irrational, and the other who strongly believes in a deity and rituals, and so there's always that pressure on the child, who to follow, what to do, unless they reach an age of reason. So yes, I mean, I completely agree with your point that there are finer points to look into when you're going to, say, marry a person and going to start a family, because there are other things to consider besides just the viewpoints and opinions or what you talk over a cup of tea every day. um, for instance, I think one of us was mentioning, as long as you don't drag the other person to the church or go on pilgrimages every 2 times every year, it should be all right, as long as you can reason things out in between yourselves. And as far as parenting your kids is concerned, yeah, I mean, it can become a source of huge conflict within families, and then you can see the actual serpent rising between, the enmity between theism and atheism showing up and flaring up. And that's something we really want to avoid, and which is one of the reasons why I initially said that my personal preference would be, going by the easy way of dating an atheist, because there could be other things that could be conflicting, and you want to reason things out, and you don't want to get into a sort of argument and discussion on every small little thing where interests conflict. So yeah, there are other things to consider when you're thinking about getting into a serious relationship with someone over there.
All right, sounds good. I want to see if Ray's connection has some problems. So if you have any opinion, you could say it right now before we lose you again, or well, you're muted. Let me unmute you first. Well, can you unmute yourself? Oh,
Well, I'm not exactly an expert on this kind of thing because I've never really been in any long relationships.
right. But do you have any opinion regarding if people regarding some people wanting to be exclusively dating atheists and some people being open to both atheists and theists?
I'm more open to just whatever works, sort of an easygoing type attitude.
All right. All right, Michael, are you still there? Because Michael would be interesting to hear what he has to say, because he's also a parent. So,
Hello.
hey, Michael.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
How are you?
Very good. Pardon me, as we're talking about relationships with atheism and the theists. I just joined in. I've missed the entire thing. I'm making pancakes. This is the result of the relationships. Anyway, I do actually have some opinions on this. That I've found in my own life that trying to mix religious folks with non-religious folks in a relationship setting, here's some secrets. My ex-wife, I was married prior to this time, was religious, and it was a constant, I guess you could say, a source of friction, because you're trying to have a discussion on almost any topic, and it's where I came up with the concept of filters, because I would be discussing it in the context of just how I see things. With herself, she would filter it through the religion. So what would end up happening is we would be having parallel conversations. I would be discussing space. I'll use space as an example. And she would be discussing space, but underneath everything she spoke about, there would be that underlying belief that, but it was invented by God. And it made it difficult, because, of course, then when you try and have a discussion on where it's going in the future, what are we going to learn, what's the potential, well, whatever God says, and then that's it. It derails the whole conversation. So anyway, yeah, I find theistic and atheistic folks don't, in my experience, don't tend to mix well, just because there's too many places where we don't agree, and they're places that you wouldn't expect. Funeral arrangements. Try and convince your religious wife to bury you in an atheistic manner. Good luck with that. I've attended more than one funeral where it was literally hijacked by a choir that started, literally, I'm thinking specifically a woman who died from cancer. She was very atheist, militantly so. And it was hijacked by about 7 folks singing hymns. They emptied the room. in a matter of 15 minutes. So anyway, I've hijacked the conversation now because I'm kind of doing three things at once. But anyway, that's just my little bit there. Another result of relationships with atheists. Say hi, Erin.
Hi.
She says hi. You can't hear it. I don't know. Anyway, guys, I'm going to turn off my microphone and let you get back to it.
Oh, that's so cute. That's so cute. All right. That was actually great input. I'm glad we got a few minutes of that. So Todd, you haven't spoken for a while. What do you think about the idea of the challenges when it comes to raising children if you're in a relationship with a theist?
Well, actually, I have sort of that similar situation. I have two children, and my ex-wife and I were very religious, and it wasn't until we divorced that I began sort of questioning everything. And over the last few years, I've gone from preparing for full-time ministry to being, a hellbound heathen atheist. And that's led to some interesting discussions, particularly regarding the kids. And one of the concerns that she had was that I would try to drag them away from the church where we were involved. They still go there. She and her husband go there. The kids still go there. And I don't fight it on every point. And I think that was initially her fear, was that I would try to drag them away from everything they were familiar, and that it would be, whenever they were with her, it would be one thing, and whenever they were with me, it would be totally different. And one of the really good conversations we had that really established a good baseline is, I said, essentially what we're doing, we're after the same values. We're trying to instill the same values in the kids. We're just going about it in different ways. I don't hang these values on a certain belief system or anything. We're just going about it differently. So we're really after the same things. And I think over time, whenever the kids were involved or something there, I would go and show up. Surprisingly, the roof wouldn't cave in, the walls wouldn't catch fire, hell wouldn't open up and swallow me. And over time, just showing support for whatever they were doing, not trying to be contentious or whatever, and seeing that was not going to be a point of contention, and speaking with the kids too whenever they would ask. They would ask, particularly my daughter. She would ask me, why don't you go to church anymore? And I would tell her, honey, that's a very good question. I'm glad you asked that. I want to talk. I'll be glad to talk to you about it, but I want to wait until you get a little bit older, because I don't want my experiences and my thoughts to color yours. I want you to be able to make up your own mind and come to your own conclusions. And later on, if you want to talk about my reasons why I think this way, I'll be glad to. But I don't want to, color any decision you may make, because I'm more interested in teaching you how to think, not telling you what to think. And I'll help you learn how to figure things out, and then allow you to make up your own mind. And then eventually, if you want to stay in this belief system, then you know what? I'll love you just as much, and nothing will change. It'll just be, we disagree on this one point. But I can see where it was really a huge concern, particularly for my ex-wife initially, as to how that's going to affect this. Are you going to be dragging our children to hell? And it turns out that's really her seeing that's not the case, and the kids are very happy, well-adjusted kids. That's no longer an issue. That's no longer a concern. And I think it just sort of takes time, because there is that, particularly with theists and everything, and there is that projection that I see everything through this one lens, so that must mean you do too. And whereas I think we're more capable of saying, no, this is just one issue among many. This is not the one issue that I define myself by. So I think that's there's some conversational things to sort out, and there's some of those issues of projection and some of those other things too to get past, to reach a baseline where you can really have those conversations. But it can be a huge issue when it comes to parenting, but it doesn't have to be. So I'll call time and let some of the others chime in. Thank you, Armin.
No, that was really great. So I think Gregory has one comment on this same topic, and then Ray has a question. So we'll just let Gregory mention his comment, and then see what Ray's question is.
Thank you, Armin. And Todd, you made a great, excellent point on the last sentence there. In my experience, I have a child, another one on the way. But the child that we have now, our little girl, she's 7. We baptized her, my wife and I, while I was still a Roman Catholic. And after a time, after I became an atheist, I started thinking about, well, how am I gonna go about, showing her my beliefs, or my lack thereof, rather, and is it going to clash with my wife's beliefs, and it can be difficult, it can be challenging, because especially when there's still the things in the Roman Catholic Church where they teach you're born with sin, and you are an evil person from birth, and you need to be cleansed and baptized, and if you don't believe, then you go to hell, and so things, it's issues like these where it can be difficult to manage, but especially when you have also family members that are theists, and then they want to maybe push their beliefs onto your child, and then take them along, to church, or have them go to, classes. I forget. I mean, what the Roman Catholic, classes are called, but just because I don't even care anymore, to be honest. But when you have those types of family members and those situations arise, it can be kind of difficult. At least in my situation, where I want to step in and say, hey, I don't really want my daughter to learn these things, because in my opinion, some of the teachings can be mentally abusive. I mean, who in their right mind would look at a child and tell them that they're evil from birth, or tell them that just because they don't believe something, that they're going to hell to live in torture for all eternity? I mean, to me, that's one of the most detrimental things that you can say to a child, who's at a young age. They're just so gullible, and they believe everything. I mean, you look at things, that are taught to children, from a young age, Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, things like other myths, and they just gobble it all up. They consume it, and it's just because they're so young that they have wild imaginations. They like to believe these things are real, and so it's as a parent, as an atheist parent, you want your child to be more skeptical. You want them to be less accepting of things. You want them to develop their own line of reasoning, and there has been quite a few situations between me and family members, like I was saying earlier, where they kind of try to push the beliefs onto my daughter, and I kind of inside I'm just like, oh, I wish you wouldn't do this, but because they're family and because I respect them, it's a difficult thing for me to speak up. I'm not sure if there's other people out there like me who became atheist after the fact, after they got married, still married to a theist. But it's difficult. It's challenging. But I think one of the things that is important as well to mention is that when you're raising a child, you do kind of want to let them be their own person. I mean, I want my daughter to grow up believing. I mean, I do have a preference. I want her to obviously be skeptical. I want her to maybe become an atheist later on, but when she grows up and she has that, higher level of critical thinking and reasoning. But if, for whatever reason she ends up, still believing in God, her mom's God, the Roman Catholic Christianity God, I would be, I guess I would be accepting of it. It's the same thing as if she were to one day say, hey, Dad, don't like boys. I like girls, and I would love her all the same, because she's my flesh and blood. But it certainly is challenging when you want your children to be more skeptical of things and less accepting of things. And that's my opinion.
That was great. I just want to, before I ask other people what their comment is, to throw out Ray's question. Ray mentioned that what if you have an atheist and a theist in a relationship, but the atheist is a closet atheist? And actually, that's a very good question, because some people are maybe afraid of mentioning that they're an atheist because that could potentially end their relationship. Like, do you suggest, like, not even trying to convert the other person or anything, just announcing their atheism could actually be very dangerous to end their relationship? Do you think people be honest about who they are and what they believe in, or should they try, if they really like the relationship they're in, to just be quiet and preserve it? What do you guys think about that?
I have an opinion on this. What I really believe is in a relationship, transparency and being honest is probably one of the topmost factors that comes on the list of why you want to be together and how you want to really grow together as individuals. I mean, being in a closet atheist could prove detrimental as and when the person knows. I mean, it's not just about you declaring verbally to the other person that you're an atheist. Your activities, your refusal to go to the church, or if you are still going to the church despite the fact that you're an atheist, in order to just preserve the relationship, you're sort of killing your own self. So what I think is basically, in a relationship, the two people should grow together as individuals and grow together. And transparency and being honest about your belief system, not just about being an atheist. We also mentioned something about being vegans, or about environmentalism or raising kids. Being open and honest about how you want to work this relationship out is one of the primary things that counts. I would love to hear what others have to say.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. If you're not being honest, that it's really hard to just enjoy your relationship if you're hiding who you really are. We're almost getting to the 1 hour mark. So, but we could continue this conversation offline for whoever wants to stay. But we have only a few more minutes. Who wants to speak? Let me see. Michael, did you have a comment? It seems like he does.
Sorry, it takes me a moment to get set up here. Basically, yeah, what you were just saying, it does. It speaks right to the root of the issue. If you're in the closet about atheism, it's fundamental, because if you're in a relationship with someone, you're everything is open, and as soon as you start hiding anything, especially something as big as that, it's the sand foundation of life sort of thing, because you can't build on that. You start to try and put anything on, and it's just going to collapse, and it's going to keep popping up. It's like I mentioned, you try and have a conversation about anything, and it will fall because that foundation isn't correct, hasn't been built right. So yeah, that honesty, I think you've nailed it. That's, without that honesty, everything else, it will fall. It can't follow. I know with myself and my ex, it was an issue. She knew I was atheist, but she actually, oddly enough, didn't like to tell me she was very religious, which is unusual, I suspect. It was in Quebec. I don't know. Maybe I don't even want to try and guess the reason for that. But she felt odd trying to discuss anything with me because she was trying to hide the fact she was very religious. And after a few years, it was pretty obvious. But yeah, the honesty is important. So yeah, for me, that's a very big one.
All right. On that note, we're gonna go offline, but we could, if you want to keep discussing this, we could still do this offline. I mean, off the air. So that was a great discussion, everybody. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna stop the broadcast right now. Goodbye. All right.